So, in this episode of Your Money This Week, my regular Friday look back at the top money stories from the last 7 days, I'm joined by finance coach and blogger Bola Sol. Some of the stories we cover include the real impact of buy now, pay later, particularly on young people. Some stats showing just how many people are checking their money, their bank balance on a regular basis, why we're starting to see some festival cancellations, and just why a big investment firm decided to drop the vows in its rebranding this week. Anyway, here you go. Hope you enjoy the show. Bola, hello. Thank you so much for coming back on Cash Chats. It's lovely to have you back on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. It has been a while.
Hasn't it? You were on, again, an early show, and we were actually in a proper radio studio. It was the best sounding show that I've done in the whole 4 years I've been doing this. It was really nice. We had all the little buttons and all the gadgets and stuff, but this works well. This is good. This is the future now, isn't it? This is how we do it.
This is literally the future, like not always like leaving your house and stuff like that. But I kind of prefer it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, this is here to stay, and it means we can much more flexible for these recordings. Right, let's get into it. Let's get into looking back at the big money stories from the last 7 days. It's been a relatively quiet week, but there are still some big ones for us to go through. And the one I want to kick off with is a report from the Citizens Advice organisation, the charity, looking at buy now, pay later, which, I'm no fan of this. I've sort of said many times before, I think it can be quite risky, but this research is really, really insightful, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've been talking about buy now, pay later, and for a while, everything to do with even food, and people are like, oh my gosh, is this a thing? Why would people pay for food, buy now, pay later for food? But I'm like, but why would people do it for clothes? And then some people say, well, people do it for a car. People kind of do it for a mortgage as well. So I think it's just about what we consider to be worth it.
Yeah. So some of these, I've got some of the stats here from this report, and this is when companies do research, when you see these things like, how many people do this, how many people do that, the sample that you want to be looking for it to be kind of a good representation of the country is only 2,000 people, which doesn't sound like a huge amount, but that in theory extrapolates outwards and gives you a good idea. Anything less than that, maybe the findings are a bit dodgy. This one, they spoke to 10,000 people. So this is a really rigorous kind of report looking at these buy now, pay later services, which, of course, if you're not aware, things like Klarna and Clear, is it Clear Pay? Is that the other one? Yeah.
Clear Pay.
Where you split the cost generally over 3 payments. So the big findings here, 45% of 18 to 34-year-olds have used it in the last year. So nearly half. This is massive. And one of the consequences of that is a quarter of those people then couldn't afford rent, food, or bills as a result. Overextended themselves through these buy now, pay laters that they couldn't afford other essentials. I'm sure there might be a bit of chicken and egg there as well, that maybe some people use buy now, pay later because they didn't have much money. But a bit like you're saying, the things they're buying on it, they're not necessarily as essential as your rent, your food, or your bills. I mean, there are so many more stats here. Across all adults, not just 18 to 34-year-olds, the average monthly repayment is £63 every single month.
So for that amount, you might as well get the latest iPhone and be on like a 24-month contract. That is a huge amount of money to be parting with every month.
It is, isn't it? And it kind of suggests that it's small incremental things. There's not just getting one thing or two things, it's getting more and more of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just have to question where were and where are people going.
Yeah, you really do, don't you? What have you found, like, from your followers? Do you get a sense of, because you've got a lot of sort of, again, younger people following you, a lot of women following you, where traditionally that buy now, pay later has kind of really sort of targeted people because in that fashion world, but obviously it is everywhere now. You can get anything on it pretty much. Do you feel that they understand what they're getting into when they sign up for this?
No, I think it's just an easy clickable option that's next door, and next door to just the checkout now. So some people just do a quick maths option in their head. I could pay the whole amount now. Let's say it's £100, or I could pay £33 in 3 installments, and I think what's now happened is we can't predict the future. We don't know if, for example, we'll still have a job next month. We don't. So it's all of these things that I think people don't factor in. They'll just say, "Oh, it's fine," and then maybe something happens. There's a change in circumstances. Then it's not fine, and then it becomes a bit of a snowball.
It really does, doesn't it? And I think there's also, and these stats sort of, back this up. There's danger that people who don't understand what they're doing and they get into it and sometimes don't even realize that by clicking this button that the payments are going to be spread out. I think, what do they say here? 2 in 5 people think it's not proper borrowing. They don't appreciate that it is, essentially a debt that they are building up. And a similar amount didn't fully understand what they were signing up for when they did it.
Yeah, of course, because you have to think, when you think of traditional debt, you usually sign a loan agreement. And because there's no sense of signature, it's just, as I said, the click of a button. People just aren't taking it as seriously.
So what do you think that needs to be done to try and help get people off this fix, this buy now, pay later fix, particularly, these 18 to 34-year-olds?
Yeah, I would say just more awareness of the long-term ramifications. There aren't enough case studies that people are seeing where they say this is a result of me using buy now, pay later and not knowing the options. It's all a bit muffled. Do you know what I mean? Of,
Yeah.
oh, well, this happened to me, but there aren't enough stories of that. So the whole buy now, pay later campaign is being pushed out way more than the case studies of this actually negatively affected my credit.
Yeah, and I think, hopefully we know there's sort of plans to try and bring in some sort of regulation of it, to try and make it the kind of the explanation of exactly what people are getting into clearer, and maybe that might make people think twice. But I guess it's down to people like you and me as well, and actually, anyone listening who's got friends sign up for this stuff. Just remind people of the good old fashioned, if you couldn't afford something, you saved for it. You budgeted, didn't you? You thought, right, I want to buy this new phone, like you said, and if you can't get it on as part of a contract, you can't maybe get it on a 0% sort of finance deal over 24 months or something, which obviously is a different way of buy now, pay later, then you wait. You put that money aside every month for anything from an expensive phone and a holiday down to a new pair of shoes or whatever it might be that you need.
Yeah, but as they say, it's the microwave generation now, isn't it? So it's that feeling of, oh man, I want it now. And of course, there's now systems where you want a new phone, you pay for you pay first for the phone. You might put down a little deposit, and then you have installments. So everything is somewhat working in a very backwards way, where you used to use your own money to actually, you can just borrow this on your credit and go from there.
Yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on this one. But this is, I've been saying for a long time that this is risky, but couldn't believe quite how many people have been using it and been struggling as a result. So again, with all the stories we talk about today, I will link to the full articles and press releases so you can explore them a little bit more in the show notes. So I'll give you that link later on. So obviously, that's a lot of that's been impacted by the last year, as everything right now is impacted by the last year. But another consequence of people struggling with their finances is some new research from Compare the Market, saying that 45% of households are checking their finances more regularly. And of those, 45% are worried about running out of money.
I see why they would be. Like, the economy is trying to rebuild itself. There's been over, I think, 700,000 job losses, and HSBC have actually said that there plans to be further cuts. So I see why people are thinking, right, I want to hold on to my money a little more. Even with things sort of reopening this summer, I'm still very much holding my purse and saying, no, I don't really think I'm gonna go out on the town just yet. I need to be able to see what the long-term ramifications are of this. And I don't personally think we'll know that for at least another year.
No, we don't we? But it's this kind of idea that people are checking things more regularly, and the sort of subset of this research is that when they're doing this, though, they're mainly, so 86% of people they're checking their bank balance at least once a month, but they're not necessarily delving down any deeper than that. Only 28%, for example, are checking their subscriptions that are coming out. So you've got this obvious concern of people worried about have I got enough money? Have I got enough money? But they're not going anywhere deeper than that. And there are some really simple things people can do and possibly should do, aren't there? That to really that's much better than just knowing what the bottom line is.
Absolutely. Like, first of all, can you get on a family plan with your family? That's so key. Can you get on a family plan? Can you, do you have to have that particular service? Is there something else? Every summer, when it comes to gym stuff, I do not go to the gym. I'm going outside for a run and things like that. So, are there places that you can cut back?
Yeah, and I think, do you use any kind of apps other than sort of your normal banking app to help you kind of track your spending? There are a lot of them out there that people could try. Or are you very much a, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm spending, so I just need to use my main banking app?
Yeah, I think I just use spreadsheets quite a bit.
Yeah, spreadsheet girl.
Yeah, I'm still so much of a spreadsheet person because it's quite manual, but as well with some of the apps, they don't update as much, and then as fast as I'd like them to, and kind of the connection between them and the the finance banks, it's not always great. So it's like you're having to update, and you just think, right, it would be faster if I manually did this in the spreadsheet.
Yeah, yeah. I certainly think it's some of the times those things they have great features in that they can nudge you here, they can nudge you there, they can sort of tell you how much you've been spending on a certain type of outgoing. So like you spent this much on takeaways in all this time, or in normal world, how much you might have spent on taxis, and you can go, oh, hang on. It kind of gives you that kind of bit of push that you need sometimes to rein in that spending. But they also sometimes don't get it 100% right. Like, I've got some which tell me you're overpaying on your broadband bill, you're overpaying on your energy bill. I am not overpaying on my broadband or my energy bills. I am, this is what I do. I am that sort of geek who goes in and makes sure I get the best deal. So they can be sometimes slightly misleading, but I do think on the whole, they're good things. And I am going to look into them in more detail on the blog at some point in the future. Talking about subscriptions.
Sorry, I had no idea that they can that some companies can be a bit misleading, like you're overpaying on this, but I think that's just like a buzz line and catchphrase that they use.
Yeah, well, what it comes down to is the fact that they don't actually know, particularly when it comes to energy. They don't know what I'm using for energy. They just see how much I'm paying. And, it could be that I haven't, but I could have a big heated swimming pool, or I don't know, a whole mansion with like 10 wings or whatever it might. You couldn't have 10 wings. That'd be impossible. It'd be a very weird shaped building, wouldn't it? But do you know what I mean? I could have 2 wings to this whole mansion. And in that case, your bills are going to be absolutely massive. But you could be someone who lives in a 1-bedroom studio flat, in which case your bills, and you're never there, so your bills would be less. All they see is a number, which doesn't mean anything. So yes, for some people, it might be a good kick to kind of look into it, but sometimes it's not going to be quite right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned there, obviously, we're talking about subscriptions, and there has been some news this week, which I did cover on the other episode of the pod this week, but Spotify is increasing its prices for some users, isn't it?
Yes, obviously I can see from your website if you're premium 0%, but like family 13.3, duo 7.7%. I must say that with time and maturity, I'm like, oh, have to get into a stable duo position, because life is just becoming so expensive if you want to do things premium and singular. And of course, then potentially the family membership can be great. And it's like, do you have to go back to being a student to make this work? But it's such a shame to see prices rise, irrespective of the fact that salaries isn't going up, but like the cost of living is.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting point you make there about if you are single, there are these premiums that essentially come on top, because a lot of the discounts you get, whether it's services like this, subscriptions, which give you discounts for 2 people or more, or buying your groceries where you are splitting your food out and things like that, it does cost more for being single. So that's although they are freezing that price, it's still more expensive than the other discounts you can get with Spotify, and that's a similar thing elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a shame, but I just say to people right now more than ever, it's time to it's time to buddy up.
Yeah, I saw someone, another money blogger, Jen Hill, who does Cancelling a Cat, her site. She tweeted the other day that she doesn't agree with marriage, but she would like to get access to her boyfriend's pension if he was to die. So maybe we can add on to that reasons to get married, inheritance benefits,
Yeah.
and a cheaper Spotify subscription service. So or just coupled up at least.
Coupled up, there's lots of benefits. You're not buying toilet roll for one, it's for both of you. You're splitting the electric bill. If anything happens, you're both deciding, like, okay, I won't turn on the heating, let's cuddle up together.
Sticking with music, there's another story that's kind of been sort of developing over recent weeks, but a bit more over the last few days as well, and it involves festivals. So we already knew some of the big ones like Glastonbury were called off for this year. They made that decision a while ago. But others kind of said, look, we're going to go ahead. Often they were moving the dates a little bit. So the Isle of Wight Festival, for example, normally takes place start of June. They've pushed it back till September. And we've seen that kind of people thinking, right, okay, yeah, festivals are going to go ahead this summer. And they have been selling out. Ticket sales have been really big. But there have been a raft of sort of cancellations again over the last sort of week and a bit, 2 weeks. Boomtown, Deershed, a few more this week. And it looks like, despite still seeming that this roadmap for relaxation of social interaction outdoors and all that kind of stuff for the 21st of June, it looks like that's still going to go ahead for that target, fingers crossed. The festival owners, they're still, the people who are running these things, they're still not confident that they will be able to safely go ahead. And according to the Association of Independent Festivals, it's basically too risky in terms of costs. It could the independent festivals generally £6 million per festival, and obviously bigger ones will cost more. Now they've called for government-backed insurance to protect organisers if in July, August, September festivals can't go ahead to help cover some of their costs. But it also kind of suggesting that we could see more cancellations over the sort of coming weeks if this sort of situation doesn't change. Now, I wanted to chat to you about this one because I know on your Instagram account a few weeks ago you shared that wireless tickets went on sale for, how much was it? It was a huge amount of money.
I think it was like £72 a ticket.
Yeah, and they hadn't even announced the lineup, so you were just buying tickets for something.
Yeah, literally buying tickets in hope, and I think the lineup has just come out and it looks pretty decent. I think it's just about how much do you really want to get out there. I know some people they're like, I miss outside so much. I have now become someone, I'm very accustomed to the way life has become. But I know people want the freedom to go outside, and I asked a lot of my audience and so many of them said, why would I pay this for something I don't know, that's like, if it's definitely happening and I don't know the lineup. And I don't blame people. Like, money, I think there are two types of people right now. The first type is, look, they're cutting jobs left, right and center. I want to be quite frugal and keep my money to myself. And the second type of person is, life is clearly for living. We survived a pandemic and I'm going to go to these festivals. And there's no fault for either person. It's just a preference.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's kind of a repeat of last year when we had this situation where people had booked their tickets, they had things in advance, and then obviously none of them happened last year. Any of these festivals that have already been cancelled in the last few weeks, the tickets, they can either get a refund or they can be rolled over to next year, so 2022. I guess for some festivals that might be a double rollover. You were meant to go in 2020.
But I think they should offer refunds. They should offer refunds. I know some companies are so keen on, I don't want to give any refunds, I don't want to give the money back. But I really feel like they have an obligation to just say, look, really sorry, this is out of our hands. If you would like your money back, that's fine. But if you're happy to roll on to next year, then keep your ticket.
And this is what it really comes back to, this, not just festivals, but concert tickets as well. In fact, any ticket that you're buying for something, it shows the importance of buying it via direct from the venue or the festival organizer, or via a proper ticket site like See Tickets or Ticketmaster. And there are plenty of them out there, but not those essentially touts online. Your StubHubs and your Viagogo. I'm not sure which ones still exist. Viagogo's still around. Some of them have gone. But with that one, if you bought your ticket via that, you don't necessarily have any right to a refund at all.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
really, and that's for some of these things. Talk about one day at Wireless for like, 75, 80 quid. Factor in the fees, it's probably over 80 quid. That's a lot of money for buying things. So because so many of these festivals have sold out, I think it's really important you think carefully about buying anything from another, from one of these sort of secondary ticket sites.
I don't know. Are people that desperate to go?
They're
I
selling
have.
out. They are selling out. Wireless, had a look. It is sold out. Boomtown, which was cancelled last week, sold out. People. You're right. I think there's a lot of people who aren't sure about it and they're waiting. But if they're waiting and suddenly find that they can go to these things and they are sold out, then they're going to maybe look at these other sort of ticket sites. It's an interesting one to see how this develops. The other risk you've got as well, which I think people should be really careful of here, if you've bought your ticket for something and it gets cancelled and you get a refund on that, fine. But what about your train tickets? What about if you've maybe had to get a hotel or anything like that? Be really careful. Have a look at the terms and conditions of anything else that you are buying to accompany that thing, the ticket, and what your rights to refund will be on those, because they're the ones you might get caught out on, even if the tickets are refunded.
Absolutely. That's very much a good point. You just have to hope that if people are coming from faraway destinations, they have a friend that they can at least stay with
Yeah,
instead of all these costs. But oh, the joys of not having to live in a big city, and that's a one verse actually living in a big city.
well, you say that. I mean, because I obviously now I live up north in a town which is great. But if I wanted to go to any festivals in London or concerts in London, I have to get. Obviously, I can go to more local ones, but if there's ones that I do want to go to in London, I've got to get down there. I've got to get accommodation and things. So it does sort of put a different sort of spin on things when it comes to that. But there are lots of benefits as well, though, to not being.
I know I'm seeing them more and more each day, each passing pandemic day.
But one last story just to quickly touch on, because it's a really odd one. It's a really bizarre thing that sort of opened the week, and it's an example of, I think, possibly rebranding that's maybe gone wrong. And this is Standard Life Aberdeen, which was a merger between Standard Life and Aberdeen something or other, from a few years ago. They've rebranded, haven't they? And I mean, tell us more. What's going on here?
I think they're just trying to fit in with the new school kind of the new school crowd. So they're trying to fit in with not necessarily even millennials, but Gen Z. Um, yeah, and that's what they're doing. Of course, I see that they've made it a bit similar to things like Tumblr, Flickr, and that's what they're going for. So I'm hoping it actually works for them in, I guess, just like shortening the name in the hopes that it does more for the brand. Sometimes it's just a marketing exercise to see like do they get more traction
Yeah.
and things like that. What do you think?
Well, it's bizarre. So basically, they've just taken all the vowels out of the word Aberdeen. So it's Abrdn. And I had to explain that you do still say Aberdeen, because you wouldn't necessarily know. If you didn't know that was a rebranding from a company called Standard Life Aberdeen, how would you know what's going on with this collection of letters? There was a great meme I saw on social as well of these characters, the A, the B, the R, the D, and the N, on the countdown board, and someone saying, "I have a consonant, please, Rachel," because it just looks so odd. And it just feels like, this seems to me like, I think this could be one of those rebrands that in a few years' time it gets rebranded again to either a completely different name or to add some vowels back in.
Yeah. But I think that's the way that you can keep a company fresh, right? By making changes here and there. I think a few years ago, Zara did something very similar. They said we're changing the style, and they changed it so slightly, and people said, "What's the real difference?" But it draws attention to that difference, and yeah, it might. I just think it's a quick marketing trick that may work quite well.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I imagine, as you say, we don't know for certain quite exactly what they're going for here, but potentially to attract a younger audience, and they are an investment firm. I mean, I know you sort of done some stuff more recently on investing for young people. If you are thinking about starting off in investing, the brand name isn't the thing to go for, is it? There's more important things to consider.
Oh, these days it's hard because, like, if something is catchy, you just say to yourself, "Oh, have you heard of this? Have you heard of cash chats and stuff like that?" It just And then people are like, oh, what's that? What's cash chats? And then before they know it, they're just interested as a result of the name. So I think there is a lot in a name these days. And then people are willing to do a little more research and say, I don't know, what's their social media? What's their website? And then decide from there.
Bola, it's been lovely to catch up. If people want to find you online and also maybe get a copy of your book, How to Save It, where should they go?
Yeah, so if you want to get a copy of How to Save It, it's available on Amazon and Waterstones. The Kindle version is currently 99p, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Bola_Sol. That's BOLA_SOL.
Fantastic. And although I'm doing my year without Amazon, so I won't be snapping up for 99p. I think that's a bargain price for people to try and get hold of it.
A year off Amazon.
No
I
Amazon for a year. Yeah.
I feel very jealous.
Give it a go. Listen, I talk about every week on Instagram. I give a little update on what's going on and alternatives that you can go for and stuff. And it's proving a lot easier than I thought it would be. So at the end of April now, 4 months, I've not missed it at all. I promise you. So yeah, give it a go. I should probably do an update episode on that on the pod soon.
You should.
Well,
Thank you so much for having me.
oh mate, it's a pleasure as ever. Thank you. There you go. Head over to becleverwithyourcash.com/cashchats190. That's where you'll find the links for all the stories we spoke about if you want to read more, delve a little bit more into some of those numbers, some of those stories. Now, this obviously is part of my regular Cash Chats podcast. I do 2 episodes every week. This is my Friday episode. If you want to listen to it rather than to watch it and also get that extra episode, then just head over to podfollow.com/cash chats. I will link to it below as well. But you can get it. Just search Cash Chats on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, basically anywhere where you regularly get your podcast fix. My name is Andy Webb. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, cheers. And here are a couple more videos you might find interesting.